The grandmother of Xuanmen is being read her heart, and the whole family is getting rich by eating melons. Introduction. www.zhaoxuan.com, Mind Reading plus Xuanxue plus Eating Melons plus Farming plus Imperial Examination. The golden finger is not big, and the female lead is a midwife, making a fortune slowly. Don't worry, Baozi. Meng Tan, who spoke out the truth, fell into the cesspool and drowned, dressed as the mute mother-in-law of the Chen family in Dating Village. Meng Tan wants to cry, she just broke her mouth a bit and said too much https://www.zhaoxuan.com. Chapter 1. Crossing Time and Eating Melons. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Mother, my son is unfilial. I couldn't let you enjoy it, so you have to go. A burst of crying came in my ear. Is it difficult to become a ghost now that one has died, and even the underworld has a welcoming ceremony? Thinking of her own way of death, Meng Tan was infuriated. She was just a fortune teller, but she didn't pay attention to revealing the secrets of the heavens. Did the thief heaven let her drown in the cesspool? I'm so angry, it's better to have a lightning strike kill her. There was even an indescribable smell lingering in her nose, and Meng Tan's face was filled with tears, even though she knew that their profession was always dominated by widowhood, loneliness, old age, and bad luck. But this way of dying is really before Meng Tan could continue to feel sorry for herself. A heavy object rushed over her body, narrowly avoiding being crushed to death. Mother, mother, don't leave me behind, mother. Ah! What a howl! You crushed me even if I didn't die. But soon, Meng Tan realized. Lying trough. She can't speak anymore. Ah! Meng Tan didn't believe in evil and called out again, his voice trembling, but he couldn't say the complete words. The person who pounced on her paused and looked at her, only at her own mother. Her eyes were filled with tears, her voice trembled, and she was full of reluctance to part with him. Chen Changyun was overjoyed and said, Mom, are you alive again? Meng Tan was only focused on crying. In such a gap, she realized that the thief had allowed her to travel through time. He also traveled to a 37-year-old peasant woman, transforming from a young and beautiful girl to the elderly mother of the Chen family's 3 sons and 2 daughters, Mengshi, in Dating Village. Of course, this is not the point. She was originally destined to be a celestial ghost and a lone star, with no family at all. Having a family at first glance is still something to be happy about. Anyway, the baby wasn't born to her, it's a waste of picking it up. The key is, this old mother is, big, mute, and mute. She has always had a great hobby, eating melons. Otherwise, why would she go fortune-telling? Of course, sometimes her mouth breaks a bit and she talks a little too much. But the thief wouldn't give her any vitality and deprive her of the right to speak, would he? Seeing Meng Tan staring without blinking, Chen Changyun was frightened. He had heard from his uncle in the village before that if a person was going to die, they would behave like this. He couldn't help but get close to his mother and pat her face. Mother, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me, I'm Changyun. Big brother and second brother are coming back soon. If you want to leave, at least you can meet them. Suddenly, a little boy's face was enlarged in front of her, and Meng Tan was startled. Then, she caught a glimpse of Chen Changyun's face after suffering from an occupational disease. Good guy, Jiang Xing descended to earth, but his fate was not good. He was blocked by the black evil star and died a miserable death. He was trampled into mud by horse hooves, tsk 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 tsk. The sudden sound startled Chen Changyun greatly. He looked around and only saw his sister.in.law, sister.in.law, and nephew kneeling by the bed crying. Apart from that, there was no one else. Did something unclean enter the room? As if thinking of something, Chen Changyun looked at his old mother and saw her eyes shining brightly at him. However, this child also has a chance to change her life. This family has received another heavenly Sha lone star, which is interesting to see against the black Sha star. After thinking about it, Meng Tan couldn't laugh anymore. Isn't Tian Sha lonely star her? Mother, mother. Chen Changyun shook his lips and called out. Ah. Meng Tan responded. Chen Changyun had goosebumps all over his body. That voice was really his mother's voice. Isn't she possessed by a ghost? What else is there to say about his poor fortune? Mom, are you my mom? Upon hearing this, Meng Tan's heart pounded and he patted Chen Changyun's arm. However, his body seemed to have been hungry for a long time, so his strength was not heavy. She couldn't help but search for her original memories. Oh my goodness, the black evil star was none other than her eldest daughter. In.law Zhu. Zhu can be a good person, and there is no one in the whole family who doesn't like her. At first, she served her original body well, and the whole family praised the filial piety of her daughter. In.law/sister.in.law. But later on, Zhu's husband didn't go home often because he was studying, his second uncle didn't go home often because he was doing a small business in the city, and his third uncle didn't notice his mother because he was taking care of the fields. Meng was also mute and had a weak personality, so Zhu began to abuse the elderly. Her abuse was not physical abuse, but mental abuse. It was a verbal blow, saying that at such an old age, she couldn't earn much money to give birth to someone. It's better to die and relieve some of the burden on our sons. If we see our original body eating too much, we will still feel disgusted, which will make our original body increasingly afraid to eat. In the end, Zhu decided not to feed her body for 3 days or 2. This time, Zhu hasn't given any food for over 2 days. The original Meng family was starved to death. Thinking of this, Meng Tan felt extremely aggrieved for his original body. Good guy, he raised 3 sons, but none of them found anything wrong with his original body. What kind of dereliction of duty is this? Thinking about it, Meng Tan stared at his original good third son and cursed loudly from the bottom of his heart. Stupid thing, it's because you don't care about your mother that you made her starve to death, or was she starved to death by your good sister. In.law. My mother has gone to the gates of hell, yet I still question whether she is true. Is this hoping for my mother's death? Chen Changyun's whole body trembled and he couldn't believe it. He looked at his sister. In.law Zhu, who was crying to tears. My sister. In.law has always been gentle and understanding. In dating village, she is one of the top kind-hearted people. She is one of the top virtuous people among the newlyweds at Xuanmen.com. How could my mother say that my sister. In.law starved to death? Sister. In.law, stop crying. My mother is fine. Go to the kitchen and get some congee. My mother may be hungry. Chen Changyun refused to believe it and wondered if his mother had gone around the underworld, causing her memory to deviate. The relationship between my mother and sister. In.law used to be so good that they would wash some intimate clothes for her. Zhu stopped crying and glanced at her mother. In.law, only to find that her eyes were bright and her gaze inexplicably intimidating. I couldn't help but greet you from the bottom of my heart. You are so old and refined, why haven't you died yet? Seeing Tianma is annoying. On her face, she gave a soft smile and said, Mom is really good. I'll go now. As soon as he stood up, he let out a soft moan and collapsed in the direction of Chen Changyun. Chen Changyun didn't have time to react and was poured into his arms by Zhu Shi. The faint fragrance made Chen Changyun's face instantly turn red. Pushing Zhu away, he collapsed softly by the bed, secretly cursing Chen Laosan for not understanding his charm, but feeling extremely guilty on his face. Uncle, I just got up and felt dizzy for a moment. I called you a joke, he said. Chen Changyun waved his hand hastily, and the discomfort in his heart dissipated. Yes, his mother has been taking care of her since she has been in trouble these days. My mother is probably in a daze. At this moment, sister. In.law was afraid that she was also tired, so Chen Changyun looked at sister.in.law and said, sister.in.law, then I'll trouble you. Got it. Tian Yinxiang is the only person in the family who doesn't like the Zhu family. Men can't tell, but she can. This Zhu sure is not a good person. When she sees the sky, she sticks it on the men at home and pretends to be weak, making everyone owe her the same. Unfortunately, men just eat this trick. Whenever she says it, her man Chen Changsheng says she's not as generous as his sister.in.law. Chapter 2. Green Tea Zhus. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. De Co Lois Ara Trong Quatrin Lay Text. Chapter 3. A Bad Family Life. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chen Chang'an can't believe it. Zhu has always been gentle and small-minded, so that he can study with peace of mind. His family has always taken good care of him. Every time he comes back, it's always asking for warmth and comfort, with a heart hanging on him. How could you possibly betray him? Also, whose voice is this? Chen Changyun saw his elder brother's appearance and had a guess in his heart. He pulled his elder brother's sleeve and pointed to his mother. Chen Chang'an, who had a clever mind, guessed at Chen Changyun with round pupils. Is it really fake? Really, this matter is too complicated. Let's talk about it later. Chen Changyun blinked, and the two brothers felt like they had a deep understanding of each other's intentions. Oh, my only son is not very old yet. It's because this child looks like his mother, so he never doubted it. But in fact, when he covers his eyebrows and eyes, the lower half of his face looks like Lu Lauer next door. If it weren't for the wrong occasion, Meng Tan would have been able to laugh out loud. Wow, it's so joyful to just eat such an explosive melon. Chen Changyun couldn't express himself in a word as he looked at his elder brother, thinking about the situation where his sister.in.law had just embraced him, his eyes filled with sympathy. Chen Chang'an didn't believe it. He picked up his 2-year-old son, covered his eyes and eyebrows, and sure enough, he had a sharp mouth and a sharp chin, just like the second Lu next door. He has a wide chin, this son is not his. For men, this is simply a great shame. Chen Changsheng frowned and tugged at his elder brother, saying in a voice that the two of them could hear, sister-in-law has a sharp chin. Chen Chang'an went to see Zhu again, and indeed his chin was sharp. He felt a little relieved, thinking that he couldn't doubt his wife who had paid for him just because of his mother's thoughts. This is so chilling. Hey, this woman has been acting too well on the surface for the past 3 years. If it weren't for what I've seen with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed she would only abuse me and steal men. At first, it was also because Lu Lauer was admitted as a scholar and did not want this woman. This woman was also intrigued, so she calculated on the boss and claimed that the baby in her belly was the boss's, and then entered the door. Gua may not be explosive, but it happened to his own relatives, or to a serious man who seemed to love his wife very much. It was even more amusing, and the original person really saw Zhu's affair. Recalling the smooth appearance of Zhu in his mind, Meng Tan smiled unkindly. The three great men looked at Meng Tan in unison, incredulous, and Chen Chang'an's face turned white. Meng Tan quickly suppressed his smile, but felt that he needed to explain it. He glanced at the boss's destiny again and his face immediately collapsed. Boss deserves it. Although he descended to the mortal world as a literary and musical star, he was later encouraged by the Zhu family to become a minor editor when he passed the imperial examination. After making an effort to become a county magistrate, I saw that I was about to rise. I found out that my mother had been poisoned to death by her wife, and even helped me conceal it. Later, I lost my official position and even lost my life because of my second son. Mom, why don't we split up at this time? I don't want to die, so let's follow the third one. The third one looks the most filial. Chen Chang'an immediately knelt down again, with too much information. He loved his wife, but never thought he would let her poison his mother. He trembled his lips, unable to say anything, and in an instant, his thoughts were myriad. He looked at his wife, who looked at him with a worried expression on her face. It seems inaudible. He recalled the past, and various clues surfaced. He didn't want to believe it, but his mother said she saw it with her own eyes. This was her inner thoughts, and there was no need for her to deceive him. My mother even wants to split up for this. Even being abused by the Zhu family cannot be said. My mother probably knows that even if he said it, he wouldn't believe it. There's no evidence yet. Pop. My son is not filial. Xuanmen slapped himself, and the whole house was startled. Zhu Shi quickly went to help her husband, but was pushed away. Get lost. Zhu shook for a moment and immediately tears welled up in her eyes. Dalang, what did I do wrong? Are you going to treat me like this? Chen Changsheng's eyes flashed with a hint of heartache. He first helped his sister Law up, then went to help him. He whispered, Big brother, how did sister Law treat the whole family in the past? That's 1,000 good things. Now, you suspect a person who doesn't know if she's a ghost. Where is your conscience? Meng Tan, who was close, heard this and rolled her eyes, her heart began to murmur. Ah, if I didn't know that you liked Zhu Shi, would have sighed with fairness. Do you think you're not unlucky? No, you're much worse off than your two brothers, White-Eyed Wolf. Chen Changyun widened his eyes and looked at his second brother. What is this amazing melon? I can't tell, second brother. How dare you covet your sister Law? Chen Changyun squeezed Chen Changsheng's arm tightly, and the emotions in his eyes surged, eventually turning into suspicion. My sister Law is so noble, I have never done such a thing before. Chen Changsheng lowered his voice, his neck bulging with excitement. As for the sound he heard, he was skeptical. Oh, you're still an infatuated person. Your future fate, but let her cause her wife to die. The only child in this life was pushed into the river and drowned. My wife and I are not doing well now. We are constantly being bullied by her men. Fortunately, that man died early, and our children are also in good spirits. In our later years, we have also had a good life, which can be considered as the only good fortune for your old Chen family. Chen Changsheng doesn't care about anything else. He went to Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, but he has a heart problem. He and his wife Tian Yunxiang have been married for 3 years, and Tian Yunxiang has never heard from her. He has long had the idea of divorcing his wife. But he also hoped that she would have a good life with her after leaving. It was he who pretended to be someone in his heart, he did not harm her, and Tian did not harm him. He thought he had no connection with the Tian family, did he actually have children with them? If so, Chen Changsheng couldn't help but look at Tian Yunxiang, and when he saw Tian Yunxiang glaring at him, he moved his gaze away. His eyes no longer had the affection he had for him when he got married. Then he looked at Meng Tan and saw that his mother had a contemptuous expression on her face. What are you looking at? Originally, you had a wealthy life, and your wife also loved you, but you let the snake and scorpion woman you blindly liked stir up everything. You're still looking at me. What's the use of looking at me? Chen Changsheng fell silent. The whole room fell into a strange silence. Meng Tan could not speak. Seeing the kanji in Chen Changyun's hand, his eyes turned green. Chen Lao-san, are you trying to starve your mother to death? Chen Changyun regained his senses and quickly started feeding Meng Tan again. Meng Tan raised his hand and found that his strength had recovered a little, so he took the bowl and drank all the kanji. It seems that the third son can't be relied on either. Let's rely on my 2 daughters. Poor precious Pearl and Moon, they will be sold into brothels by their sister Law in the future. If I am killed, what will they do? Meng Tan muttered to himself, then ignored the 3 big men with their chest heaving violently, and waved to the 2 daughters who were huddled in the corner and startled for a while. When Chen Baozhu and Chen Baoyue came over, they specifically bypassed their sister-in-law and threw themselves into the arms of the old lady, crying in fear. The two little girls finally realized that the voice in their minds was the voice of their mother. Chapter 4. Discussion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The ancients matured early, even though the two little girls were only 8 or 9 years old, they knew that this strange thing could not be said. It also relates to the mother, who is the best person in the world for them. Meng Tan cried a few tears while holding her two cheap daughters, not because of her superb acting skills. She cried whenever she wanted, but because of her true emotions. I'm really worried about my daughter. In the past, Zhu's treatment of the two daughters was superficial and beautiful, but in fact, they did a lot of work together. The two daughters, who were originally raised tender by their parents, had rough palms. The three sons felt even more guilty, even Chen Changyun's eyes turned red, but he couldn't say anything. The words and emotions were suppressed in my heart, but I couldn't hold them back. Two golden beans fell out, and after wiping away tears, I gritted my teeth and said to my two brothers. Big brother and second brother, you are always away, but you must be filial to your mother, right? Let's discuss the issue of your mother's elderly care. Bao Zhu and Bao Yue are almost 10 years old and should be sensible. Let's come together. Both Zhu and Tian Yunxiang felt inexplicable. Today, when these three brothers met, they seemed crazy and possessed ghosts. Now, they were inexplicably discussing the matter of their mother-in-law's retirement. They haven't separated yet. Zhu's eyes rolled and he followed Chen Chang'en's side. The seasoned uncle turned around and glared at her fiercely. Our men's family is discussing things, so sister-in-law shouldn't come with us, right? Uncle, I'm also worried about my mother. If you don't let me follow, I won't follow, Zhu said with tears in her eyes. Third, how can I talk to my sister-in-law? Second, as soon as he saw Zhu shed tears, he felt a pang of pain in his heart. In his impression, my sister-in-law's life at the Chen family was not easy. Chen Chang'en used to be unaware, only feeling that his second son had too much respect for the Zhu family. He thought he was doing a small business outside, afraid that he had suffered a lot of injustice due to his status as a small businessman, so he paid extra attention to etiquette. At first glance, the etiquette of farting, damn it, is all about a man's love and affection for women. But Chen Chang'en has always valued the harmony of his family. Harmony and unity are the foundation of a family's development, especially as a scholar. After broadening his horizons, he values it even more, so he will not embarrass his second son in such a situation. But I don't have a good expression either. Chen Changyun was young, and seeing the expression on his elder brother's face, he felt that these two people didn't believe his mother's words and still believed Zhu's words. He became angry and clenched his fists, narrowly escaping control and beating both of his elder brothers. At this moment, he really thinks that Zhu sure is a disaster family spirit. His mother is right, this is a black evil star. Therefore, Chen Changyun's tone was not very good, with a hint of mockery. Second brother can be a good person, but big brother didn't say anything. Chen Changxing choked and turned his head to look at his elder brother. Sure enough, he saw his elder brother pursing his lips and not speaking, but his eyes and those of Zhu Shi were filled with suspicion. Chen Changxing felt angry and even more humiliated. His sister-in-law was so noble and pure as a white lotus, and he dared not touch it at all. Along with it, he complained about his mistress, a simple-minded rascal. The room for discussion is Chen Chang'en's room, also used as a study. As soon as you enter, you can smell the fragrance of books. And the lighting is excellent, even if someone eavesdrops outside, they can detect it. Big brother, what are you going to do? So. Zhu not only mistreated her mother, but also refused to feed her. This time, her mother is not good because she is starving, let alone she stole someone. Your nephew is not yours either. Chen Changyun has a straightforward personality. He has been holding it for so long, but his mind is not completely blank. He swallowed the slut, he blurted out, and at least took care of his older brother's face. Xuanmen sat in front of his desk without speaking, but his hand on the desk was tightly clenched into a fist. Seeing him not speaking, Xuanmen became even more angry and said, "If you ask me to speak, why not take her off?" Third. What my mother said may not be right either. My sister-in-law is busy at home. The second child instinctively defended Zhu's case and heard a loud bang. The third child pounded the table and pointed his fingers at his nose, cursing softly. Second brother, did you make Mize dizzy? Did you say it out loud? That's what my mother thinks. Xuanmen, do you listen to what you're saying? No wonder my mother doesn't imply anything to us. It's because of you that my mother feels cold and thinks that our three brothers are not as reliable as our two yellow-mouthed younger sisters. Xuanmen was really cold-hearted. As he spoke these words, the middle-aged young man's eyes turned red and tears streamed down his face. You're willing to spend time with such a snake and scorpion-hearted woman, but I'm not willing to. I'll take my mother and sisters with me. My mother also wants to split the family. I think it's better to split the family today. Third brother. The boss let out a low growl, his breath extremely unstable, as if he had been blocked by something. The two brothers looked at the elder brother and saw him coughing violently, spitting out a mouthful of old blood, and the crimson blood was lying on the handkerchief in Xuanmen's hand. Both brothers changed their faces and ran to their older brother's side. Big brother. It's okay, it's just a matter of anger attacking the heart. Xuanmen calmed down, and the two brothers realized that the big brother's eyes were red and his hands were trembling. It's not as uncomfortable as they are, I'm afraid it's even more so. After all, big brother and sister-in-law also look extremely affectionate. Zhaoshuyuan.com. Xuanmen felt guilty. He recalled how his sister-in-law would cry in front of him in the past, saying that his elder brother despised her for not knowing poetry, songs, and prose, and that he couldn't say a word to her. He was very heartbroken at that time, thinking that his elder brother was so ignorant of such a virtuous person. From then on, he handed over as much money as he earned to the Zhu family. The Qin family has always been in charge of money by the Zhu family. Tian complained many times, but he didn't even see it. As a result, it was him who was deceived. If the elder brother doesn't care and has a bad relationship with his sister-in-law, can he be so angry and anxious that he can vomit blood? I'm afraid we've already found an excuse now, whether it's Hugh or Healy, they're going to blow people out. In his heart, the world constructed by Zhu seemed to be collapsing, and Xuanmen felt extremely uncomfortable. We have no evidence of this. She has given birth to a son and has always had a great reputation in the village. If she wants to divorce her with the 7-out rule, I'm afraid the clan elders won't stand on our side either. Xuanmen clenched his handkerchief tightly, and with every word he said, he saw a picture of his love with Zhu Shi in front of him. Every word was gouging out his heart. But in front of the fact, my mother's voice had not been expressed to anyone, so he couldn't help but believe it. I'll handle this myself. You should do whatever you usually do and don't show anything wrong. Especially you, second. The second person's face changed slightly and he said, Big brother, what do you mean? My sister-in-law and I really don't have much to do. You wouldn't be so anxious about anything, but you were anxious to cover it up. After all this, Zhu couldn't pry anything out of me in Lao San's mouths, but he would definitely find you. You must keep this secret when the time comes. Xuanmen sneered and added, maybe he will still embrace you, second brother. Second brother must hold on. Chapter 5. Eating Big Melons. You are listening at novelfull.audio. De co lois ara trong quatrin lay text. Chapter 6. Dalang, give me a chance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. De co lois ara trong quatrin lay text. Chapter 7. Zhu's Seduction. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Xuanmen didn't say a word, took back his pants and turned around to go out. Zhu did not catch up either. She knew him well, which was in her anger, but she had no intention of taking her leave. As long as she begged him again later, this matter would pass. Zhu has great confidence in herself. Now, we still need to show more. After thinking about it, Zhu turned her head to help Meng Tan, but Meng Tan stepped aside and a third person glared at her. Don't bother sister. Law, I'm afraid my mother will be covered in injuries by then. Zhu choked and said, Uncle, I really know I was wrong. Meng Tan glanced at Zhu Shi and raised his eyebrows slightly. Wow, this destiny is actually turning around. Zhu is going to have bad luck. The third person ignored Zhu and helped Meng Tan out. At the dinner table, the whole family is waiting for Meng Tan. Meng Tan glanced over and fixed his gaze on the second son Xuanmen, frowning slightly. Zhu patiently served Meng Tan to eat, and Meng Tan glanced at him again, his gaze wandering between the second and Zhu families. Seeing her movements, the second person's heart tightened. He even wanted to kneel. Mother, if you keep watching, Big Brother should suspect me again. Xuanmen clenched his fists. If second brother and Zhu had a head and tail, what would he do? Xuanmen, the third brother, lowered his eyelids as if he couldn't see his elder brother's eyebrows and eyes in the lawsuit. He picked out all the dishes that Zhu had put into his mother's bowl and then picked them out himself. Tears welled up in Zhu's eyes and he remained silent. He first looked at Xuanmen, who was frowning and eating absent-mindedly. Turning his gaze to Xuanmen again, he saw Xuanmen turning his head to one side, as if suffering from a plague. He twisted his head too quickly and made a clicking sound, facing Ueda Yunxiang directly. Tian Yunxiang was already furious, and his sister. Law is here again. Also, Xuanmen, who has been plagued, what kind of disguise should he put on? He used to love this naughty fox the most. Unable to contain her anger, Tian Yunxiang placed her hand on Xuanmen's thigh and twisted it fiercely. Ah! Xuanmen shouted, lowered his head, and grabbed Tian Yunxiang's hand. TSK is the dining table at Old Chen's so wonderful. Meng Tan smiled and attracted everyone to look over. Cough. Meng Tan choked several times, lifted his head, and his gaze wandered between Xuanmen, Tian Yunxiang, and Zhu Shi. Oh, my goodness, don't look at me anymore. You're going to have bad luck tonight. Zhu Shi will go seduce you tonight and tell you how difficult she is. I guess she wants to ask you what you discussed with your brothers today. But your daughter. Law can see clearly and knows that Zhu has been seducing you all along. Today, when Zhu seduces you, she must think you have something. Tomorrow, you will have no daughter. Law. Cough, cough, cough. Xuanmen choked on his rice several times and looked at his own mother in terror. Xuanmen also raised his head, his face calm as water, but inexplicably making people afraid. Xuanmen glanced at his second brother and secretly turned pale, then lowered his head to eat as usual. Baozhu Baoyue is also an invisible person, but in his heart he roast. I can't see that you are such a person, second brother. The second person felt like sitting on pins and needles, casually took a few bites of rice, then turned around and went out. After taking 2 bites, Zhu gave all the food to her son and said, Bauer, you eat more. Mom won't eat anymore. Mom will go out and collect the clothes. After speaking, Zhu also went out. Xuanmen. With a black face Xuanmen. Watch a good play, the two sisters realized later. My mother seems to know fortune telling. I'm full. Tian Yunxiang also put down her rice bowl and went out, still looking angry. Meng Tan. This is not about being full, it's about being full. Good guy, there's a good show to watch. What should she do if she wants to go see it? But her stomach is not full yet, no matter what, she went carrying her rice bowl. Meng Tan stood up with his bowl, startling the two brothers. Before the two brothers could react, Meng Tan carried a bowl and went out to the backyard. When she saw Tian Yunxiang, she stopped walking. Anyway, you can also hear it here. Meng Tan suddenly noticed that there were people around him. On the left was the third child and Baozhu sisters who were carrying the same bowl of food as her, and on the right was the boss who was smoking. Meng Tan looked up at the sky. Fortunately it was getting darker, otherwise so many of them would have been discovered. Second uncle, I really wanted to interrupt today. I didn't mean to abuse my mother. I'm busy indoors and outdoors every day, and no one helps me. I feel bitter in my heart, and I can't help but. Under the moonlight, Zhu Shi, who was plain in color, was like a white lotus, crying more like a delicate flower in the wind and rain, shattering her heart. At first, when Zhu approached Chen Changxing was filled with anger, but when Zhu cried, his heart softened again. This is the person he has been keeping in mind for many years. Upon hearing this, Chen Changxing couldn't help but ask, isn't Tian doing it with you? My younger brother and sister have always disliked me, and I can't force her to do anything. Uncle, others don't believe me. Don't you still believe me? Sister-in-law, I believe you. Let me talk to Tian and ask her to do more. Don't cry. Meng Tan almost sprayed out a mouthful of rice he had just taken. This bastard thing, the love brain is not used like this. Tian Yinxiang is still listening. If it were her, she wouldn't want such a man, scumbag. Sure enough, Tian Yinxiang, who was not far from the two in front, trembled and turned around before leaving. Before leaving, Meng Tan saw that there were still 2 lines of clear tears hanging on her face. Tian Yunxiang was so straightforward that she didn't even prick it at this moment, indicating her true coldness. Zhu withdrew her tears and smiled politely, it's still my second uncle who is reasonable and willing to believe me. I don't know what you all said in the room today. Is there anything that my sister-in-law cannot listen to? Chen Changxing's heart trembled, and his mind suddenly heard the words of his mother. Zhu Shi would seduce him and calculate to know what they had said. The hand on his side clenched into a fist, and Zhu's despicable side returned to his mind. Chen Changxing looked up and then looked at Zhu Shi. The noble side under the moon suddenly became bleak. He suddenly realized that Zhu Shi's words just now were not adding eye drops to Tian Shi. Are you being led by Zhu's nose? After trying to pass, Chen Changxing looked at Zhu Shi and felt a chill on his back. It's not a big deal, it's just that my third brother scared my mother, so he pulled me and my older brother to discuss. What does sister-in-law want to know? Is that really the case? Or does Uncle Air not believe me anymore? Zhu bit her lip and leaned closer to him. A faint smell drifted in, and Chen Changxing frowned and took a step back. Sister-in-law, please take care of yourself. Chen Changxing took a deep breath, he hadn't noticed before. Zhu Shi is really seducing him. This woman is so unbearable. Chen Changxing felt a strong sense of disgust in his heart and didn't want to entangle with Zhu anymore. Zhu's face changed slightly. This fool actually discovered her intention. Didn't he enjoy it before? She wanted to say something more, but Chen Changxing was already a few steps away from her. If sister-in-law is okay, I'll leave first. Chapter 8. Tian's return to her mother's home. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing someone coming over. Meng Tan picked up his rice bowl and ran away. After watching a lively scene, Chen Changyun took a special look at his big brother's black-faced expression, and in his heart, he gloated and left. Big brother knows the true face of this poisonous woman, but he still keeps going. Do you want to stay at home for the Chinese New Year? There is also second brother, looking at his face that has been greatly affected, second sister-in-law has already run away with anger. He wants to see how second brother will clean up tomorrow. Chen Changxing couldn't tidy up tonight. As soon as he entered the room, he saw Tian Yunxiang sitting by the bed in a daze without lighting the lights. The figure looked indescribably lonely, and Chen Changxing felt ashamed in his heart. He stepped forward to embrace Tian Yunxiang, who slapped him in the back. "Pa pa," a crisp sound accompanied by Tian Yunxiang's low voice of scolding. "Chen don't think I don't know. Today, I'll ask you, do you and your sister in law have a beginning and end?" "What are you talking nonsense?" "It's nothing." Chen Changxing was shocked, thinking that Tian sure didn't notice. "So, why does she always look like a fox every time she sees you? If you don't order anything, would she look at you with that kind of gaze?" Tian Yunxiang didn't believe it. The words she just heard were not the concern that a second uncle should have for his sister in law. Moreover, her man, the person she likes, would rather trust someone else's wife than trust her. How pitiful. Don't make a fuss about it. She and I really don't have much to do. Why don't you believe me? Stop shouting and let the big brother hear later. What should he think? Chen Changxing pulled at Tian Yunxiang. He just wanted to explain, didn't want such words to be heard in Tian Yunxiang's ears. It's no different from concealing. "Have you ever held her hand?" Tian Yunxiang suddenly asked. Chen Changxing was angry and said, "No, Tian, I have already explained." "How on earth can you believe it?" "Ha!" Tian Yunxiang sneered and suddenly grabbed his hand, rubbing Chen Changxing's palm with a thin cocoon between his palms. "I'm busy indoors and outdoors every day, and no one helps me. My second younger brother and sister have never liked me, so I dare not force her to do anything," said coldly. Chen Changxing felt a thump in his heart. It turned out that just now, Tian sure was present and she heard everything. He wanted to grab Tian Yunxiang's hand and touch the place with a thin cocoon. But she was one step late, and Tian Yunxiang had already pulled it out. She cried and laughed and said, "Chen you don't have the heart." After speaking, Tian Yunxiang lay on the bed with her back to Chen Changxing. Chen Changxing felt scared for the first time in his life. If my mother is right, will the Tian family leave tomorrow? Absolutely not. Chen Changxing thought to himself and climbed onto the bed, tightly embracing Tian Yunxiang from behind. He explained in a low voice, Xiang, I didn't do anything to her. It's not what you see. I know I was wrong. Tian Yunxiang didn't pay any attention to Chen Changxing all night. Chen Changxing was really afraid that Tian Yunxiang would leave. His mother had said that they would have one child, the only child. But by early morning, Chen Changxing's eyelids still began to fight. The next day, Tian Yunxiang got up early and tidied up some clothes. When she went out, she met Chen Changyun, who had risen early, and said calmly, "Uncle, when your second brother gets up, tell him to write a divorce letter with me. If not, I will go to the Xuanmen and also leave." Chen Changyun was surprised and really made his mother say it right. Second sister in law. What are you saying? Tian Yunxiang remained faint, but her eyes were unusually swollen and red. No need to say more, I've already made up my mind, she said after finishing speaking. He left. Chen Changyun wanted to chase after him, but it wasn't dawn yet. What would it look like if his younger uncle chased after him? After much thought, Chen Changyun burst into Chen Changxing's room and shook his sleeping body. Second brother. Second sister in law has gone back to her mother's house. You can still sleep. Why don't you sleep to death? I'm so angry with him. Even though his mother said it, my second brother still has to step into a trap, and my good sister in law is gone like this. Second sister in law is so good, she just has a straightforward and sharp temper. Chen Changxing woke up in shock and casually put on a piece of clothing before snatching the door and chasing after him. Meng Tan had just opened the door when something suddenly rushed out. That's really faster than ghosts. Good guy, if it weren't for her being from a mysterious sect, she might have suffered a stroke. I can't get up so early next time. Before she could recover, a figure rushed up to her and let out a howl. Mother, sister.in.law has gone back to her mother's house. Oh hey, I really hit the nail on the head. Wait a minute, my second son will be beaten back by his father.in.law's family. Xuanmen froze and realized a problem. Everything in the past 2 days was unpredictable. A series of things at home made him not think carefully. Now, thinking about it, isn't this unpredictable thing just calculated? Is his mother still a godmother? No wonder my mother insisted that my elder brother go to school, no wonder she gave birth to those women, and most of them survived. Before, I couldn't hear my mother talk, so my mother still has such skills. Mother, what should we do? Xuanmen was anxious. As a young man, he had never encountered such a thing before and lacked experience. Zhaoxuan.com Meng Tan rolled his eyes. What to do, cold salad. If the second person is not sincere, they won't be able to coax them back. Sure enough, by dawn, Zhu had already prepared the morning food, Meng Tan had served the table, and Chen Er came back feeling lost and disoriented. As soon as I entered the room and saw Meng Tan, the corner of his mouth furrowed and he knelt down on the ground, wailing loudly, Mother, Tian sure wants to separate from me. She doesn't want me anymore. Meng Tan took a deep breath and slapped Xuanmen on the head, pointing to the dining table. You bastard, didn't you see your mother? Am I eating? The world is vast, and eating is the greatest. Let me finish my meal first. Xuanmen suddenly choked up and sat down at the dinner table with red eyes. After breakfast, Xuanmen eagerly looked at Meng Tan and said, Mom, what should I do? I have told Tian a lot, but she just doesn't believe me and doesn't know what she said to her father.in.law. My father.in.law beat me with a big stick, and I didn't even see her face. What else can you say? You're having an affair with your sister.in.law. With the Zhu family as a troublemaker at home, your father.in.law may think that the men in the family are in chaos. How could you possibly bring the Tian family back? The three brothers all had an unpleasant expression on their faces. Chen Lao, and Chen Lao looked at Chen Laoda, but Chen Laoda remained calm, still holding a book to read, with Zhu Shi serving him attentively. Seeing Xuanmen's decline, Meng Tan took a deep breath and began to roast. Hey, my blind son, be sincere. Are you afraid that the Tian family won't come back? Although Tian has a baby in her belly and will come back, she has already become estranged from you. From now on, Zhu will seize this opportunity to kill your son. Sigh, I don't know if there are any signs of change in your destiny like the boss did. The descendants of the Tian family have a prosperous future, and perhaps it will drive your destiny to be unique. Chapter 9. Exposes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xuanmen's heart twitched and he glanced at the old lady, wanting to ask something, but he thought of Zhu Shi next to him and perked up his ears. Meng Tan didn't see it and continued to recite fragmented thoughts. If you say women are not easy to coax, it's because you didn't have the heart. Yesterday, your couple must have had an argument. She was arguing with you from the beginning, right? But you think you haven't done it before, think she's causing trouble for no reason. Xuanmen's expression froze. Indeed, he had never done anything before. Do we have to admit something to Tian Shi in order for Tian Shi to change his mind? But admitting it, the Tian family won't forgive him either. Ah, why are women so troublesome? Xuanmen frowned and scratched his head. Judging from your foolishness, she's not trying to get an answer from you. She's arguing about emotions. When you say something to Zhu, she must be very concerned and care if you still have her in your heart. At this point, even if you soften up and say something like, I've always known about your hard work, and then hold on to it and say a few words of love, isn't that enough? Unfortunately, you never had her in your heart. She used to be unbelievable and kept deceiving herself, trying to keep your heart warm. Xuanmen's face turned pale. Meng Tan is very gloating. Unfortunately, after she finished probing, she found out that you didn't have her in your heart from beginning to end. Isn't that making your heart cold? Chen Changsheng's face could no longer be described as pale. He couldn't help but think of the sweetness of their initial marriage in his mind. At that time, he and the Tian family were still in love. Later, the Tian family broke through a scene where Zhu fell into his arms, and at that time, he only focused on apologizing for Zhu. I haven't paid attention to Tian's incredulous expression. At the thought of separating from the Tian family, his only child would also be gone, and Chen Changsheng could no longer control himself. Mom, what should I do? Teach me, as long as I can bring Tian back, I am willing to do anything. I will definitely live a good life with her in the future. Second brother. What are you saying? Mom can't speak either. What are you doing here? Chen Changyan's face immediately changed and he looked at Zhu Shi, who was looking over. He couldn't help but shout. What if Zhu finds out that they can hear his mother's words? Chen Changyan also had a bad expression on his face. He glanced at Zhu Shi first and said coldly, "Don't revolve around me. Go and see your son, he's still young." Zhu's intuition was that these brothers were in trouble, but she didn't notice the coldness in Chen Changyan's tone. When her own man spoke, she found it difficult to refute and went out. After Zhu left, Chen Changyan's face turned cold as frost. Second, you're crazy. It's a shame you're still doing business outside. Don't you understand the principle of being cautious in your words and actions? Big brother, Tian has my only child in her belly. Chen Changsheng covered his face and his voice choked up for a moment. Mother, teach me, my sons can hear what you're saying in your heart, teach me. Second brother. Chen Changyan immediately stood up and looked at Meng Tan first. Chen Changyan has many considerations for such a matter, and he wants to slowly tell his mother that she believes in ghosts and gods the most when delivering babies. At first glance, they can hear her voice, and perhaps they will think they have encountered a ghost. What should they do if they are scared out of fear? Chen Changyan's face didn't look good either, and he looked at his own mother nervously. Mother, don't be afraid. Others can't hear, only our brothers can hear, he said. Perhaps you went to the gates of hell and had some unexpected experiences that you didn't even know about. It was a gift from heaven. Meng Tan looked at Chen Changyan with emotion and patted his hand with satisfaction. It's better for Sanner, I've already found excuses for her. Since that's the case, she won't pretend anymore. Looking directly at Chen Changsheng with a black face and rolling his eyes. You bastard, with a face crying here. Don't think about what your wife likes, what your parents-in-law like, and what they like. Even if you have a cold face towards you now, your heart will gradually be covered with warmth. Your father.in.law may have some thoughts about you and your sister.in.law. Don't rush to explain. Your father.in.law already doesn't believe you, so wait for him to calm down before slowly explaining. It's better for you to stay at your father.in.law's house and work for them, no matter what, but don't rush to lick the Tian family. That way, the Tian family will only think that you're just trying to cover up your dirty business and try to coax her back. Chen Changyan looked at his own mother with difficulty in expressing himself. Mother, it's not appropriate to stay with the Yu family. This is said tactfully. Meng Tan glanced at the boss and roast in his heart. My wife is almost gone, what kind of face do you want? Besides, there is still a Zhu family at home, and my second son is still at home. Aren't you afraid of being misunderstood by his father.in.law's family? Chen Changyan's face showed embarrassment and he stopped speaking. Mother. I know now. I won't let Zhu be fooled again in the future. Thank you, son. Chen Changsheng wiped away his tears, got up, and was about to walk outside the door. Meng Tan's heart spoke again. My mother only hopes that you can treat Tian Shi well and listen to her well this time. She will be the one who accompanies you to old age in the future. If you don't believe her again, even if the Yuanshi Heavenly Lord comes, you will not be able to reverse your fate. Chen Changxing hesitated and quickly left the door. Meng Tan sighed. She could tell that Chen Changxing didn't like the Tian family very much. Just being entangled by her only child statement, she searched for the Xuanmen website www.zhaoxuyuan.com, but looking at their marital palace, it was a perfect match, the most perfect match. If we separate, we may not be able to find such a perfect match. Moreover, in this era, there is always not much tolerance towards women, and Tian and Li are not good at finding people. It's better to continue living with Chen Changxing. Then, Meng Tan glanced at Chen Chang'an again, with a somewhat meaningful expression in his eyes. This child is a bit miserable. But fate has changed, it's just a bit dangerous. If we pass this risk, the future will be smooth. Boss, what do you want to do? It's better to bring some people around. Chen Chang'an's eyes slightly changed and he asked a question, does your mother know the art of the Book of Changes? Previously, he had been in a huge blow from Zhu's betrayal of himself and had not carefully considered some of his mother's words. Now, thinking about it, if it weren't for being able to calculate, how could one say these many prophetic words? I didn't know before, but after dying this once, it suddenly happened. Just by looking at your faces, I know what will happen in the future. Meng Tan pretended to be distressed, with a frightened expression on his face. Son, I'm afraid my mother hasn't been possessed by some ghost, has she? Do you want to invite a monk to recite? Mom is feeling anxious in her heart. No way, mother. If someone else finds out about this, they will burn you as a monster. Chen Chang'an blurted out. Meng Tan was delighted. It seems that the effect of this counter-general's army is good. Yeah, Mom, this is not appropriate. Don't mention it in the future. If there is really a ghost possessed, Mom won't remember us, let alone sit here and be afraid. My mother must have encountered some great fortune. Chen Chang'an comforted him gently and asked unintentionally, do you see anything wrong with my life? Chapter 10. Infidelity. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The air, you have a dark belly. Meng Tan raised his eyebrows and snorted. The secret cannot be leaked, anyway, you don't need to be alone lately. The shadow of being drowned in the cesspool was too great, and Meng Tan remembered not to say too much, even if it was in his heart. Who knows if the thief will find out and then let her drown or something. She knew that the heir wanted to plot against the Zhu family. Without an answer, Chen Chang'an just smiled. In the evening, Zhu waited on him to undress and carefully watched Chen Chang'an's expression. For the past 2 days, Chen Chang'an has been very indifferent to her. Zhu harbored a deep hatred. She served this big family and even kept warm beds for people she didn't like. Chen Chang'an even gave her a face. If it weren't for having a family and a father for her child, she wouldn't want to be wronged in front of Chen Chang'an. However, Lu Tongyin said that if she had to wait a little longer, he would be able to bring her and her son into the Lu family. But Lu Tongyin had already let down the Zhu family once before, and she couldn't fully believe Lu Tongyin's words. We still need to please Chen Chang'an first. So he asked softly, Dalang, aren't you going to the academy? But Chen Chang'an fixed his gaze on her for a while, with a look that was inexplicable, cold and calm, as if there was a venomous snake hidden beneath. Zhu shuddered for nothing. I heard Chen Chang'an say, tomorrow will be the day when the academy takes agricultural leave, don't you remember? Hee, I've had a lot of things these past few days. I've forgotten, but since that's the case, you can rest well at home, young man. There's me and my younger siblings working in the fields. Sigh, I've forgotten that my younger siblings have returned to my parents' house, and so has my second uncle. How could he have been so dependent on the Yu family? This is not decent. Chen Chang'an glanced at her again and responded faintly, Zhu frowned. In the past, whenever she said such a thing, Chen Chang'an would say that she had worked hard, and even if there were any major conflicts, he would use a soft tone. It seems that old lady is still extremely important in Chen's heart. Chen is really annoyed with her. However, Zhu had no intention of coaxing Chen Chang'an, and Lu Tongyin would also come back tomorrow. Zhu lowered her eyes as she tried to force Lu Tongyin to bring herself and her child into the Lu family. She can't stay any longer at the Chen family. Zhu Gu thought to himself, but did not see Chen Chang'an's increasingly cold gaze. Both of them fell asleep with their thoughts in mind. The next evening, Lu Tongyin arrived home and passed by the Chen family when he saw Zhu pouring water. He blinked at her and quickly entered the Lu family's door. Zhu's heart was pounding, but she genuinely liked Lu Tongyin, so much so that she treated Chen Chang'an perfunctorily at night. Chen Chang'an realized something was wrong and quickly guessed the truth. His restless heart stirred once again, emitting a wave of malice. In the past, he would stay up late reading at night, probably because he had wronged this pair of miserable mandarin ducks. So tonight, he didn't continue reading, but went to bed early. Just as he was about to fall asleep, the window frame was suddenly thrown with a stone with a small sound, but for Chen Chang'an, who was feeling tense in his heart. This sound was like a sharp blade that cut through something in his heart. The person beside him stood up, his breath getting closer to him, as if watching him fall asleep. After a moment, Zhu got out of bed and heard a faint sound of opening and closing the door behind her. Chen Chang'an's hand in the blanket suddenly clenched into a fist. My whole body is trembling. He is really thinking about marital love. In the past 2 years of their relationship, Chen Chang'an wanted to give Zhu a good ending. But Chen Chang'an got out of bed and followed far behind Zhu Shi. Watching her leave the door, seeing her reach the half-person high grassy area behind the Lu family, watching a man's figure leap out, hugging Zhu Shi and giving it a bite. Sweetheart, I miss you so much. Did you miss me, Zhu seemed to give a push, but she didn't push it away, and her voice became inexplicable. You still said, what's the use of missing you? When will you bring me and Bauer back to the Lu family? Bauer is now old and can call me father and mother. Do you think Bauer keeps calling others father? I won't allow my son to call someone else a father. I will pick up your mother and son soon, and you can hold back. Lu Tongyin's expression was sinister for a moment. Then, he fiercely pushed Zhu down into the grass and pounced on him. Chen Chang'an, who witnessed the whole journey, was cold all over. There were unbearable voices in my ears. Knowing the truth is one thing, but seeing it with my own eyes is another. Chen Chang'an took 2 steps back, not wanting to step on a stone. There was not much noise, but on such a quiet night. This sound was undoubtedly loud and alarmed the wild mandarin ducks rolling in the field. Lu Lao immediately stopped moving and looked towards the direction where he was hiding his figure. Under the faint moonlight, his eyes were like wolves, releasing an undisguised killing intent. Chen Chang'an was startled and hurriedly turned around, only to encounter a figurehead on. Cluck. Cluck. The figure suddenly made a sound that looked like a rooster crowing, with a mother hen in her hand, pulling him towards the road and running away. Lu Tongyin was a cautious person. He immediately picked up his pants and ran towards the place where Chen Chang'an was standing at the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com, only to find that there was nothing else in the original place except for the hen that laid eggs at home. Chen Chang'an was pulled by the figure that was 1 head smaller than him and ran wildly. Fortunately, the distance was not far, it was close to home, and it was all the way to his own yard. Chen Chang'an was startled to feel that his heart was beating like a drum. He used to be panicked. It was his mother who pulled him away. Meng Tan sighed and patted Chen Chang'an's shoulder, his face full of pity. For some reason, Chen Chang'an felt like crying for a moment, and he did the same. He knelt down, crouched in his mother's arms, sobbing and suppressing himself. Meng Tan doesn't pity this guy at all, she pities herself. It was said not to act alone, but she only alerted this person yesterday and forgot all about it today. Hey, why is she still keeping this kind heart? If it weren't for himself tonight, this kid would definitely have died on the spot. Grandpa, this is also considered a breach of the heavens. I don't know what the thief will do to her. The revenge of the thief came quickly. That night, the room she slept in collapsed for no reason. It's not all collapsed yet, it's just the exact spot where she sleeps, or the spot on her feet. A wooden stick the size of her arm fell and hit her little toe. My little toe is definitely broken. Ah. Meng Tan couldn't help but cry. Seeing Xuanmen present, I was angry and couldn't help roast on purpose. Thief God, isn't it just to save my son? As for what happened to me, if I don't save him, he should have died yesterday. If you don't let me save him, should I watch my son die?